Not even the second string, the third string. But yeah, it does kind of feel unbelievable that we're sitting here talking about of Eagles victory here. And I think you have to look to none other than obviously the Chiefs wide receivers dropping the ball and giving it away. And maybe we'll start over from the top here in a second with all of our brilliance, but I'm just going to keep talking until we figure this out. You have to look to the defense. The defense. We're back. Here we go. Can you hear us?
Beautiful.
Woo!
All right, we figured it out.
All right, Bo, let's start.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, the Eagles won this game. You may not have thought that was going to happen, but they did. They were down 17-7 at the half. They came back. DeVonta Smith puts them in position to take the game-winning touchdown with a tush push from Jalen Hurts. And then you know what happened next. They sort of turtled on offense. Marquez Valdez-Scantling drops what could have been the game-winning touchdown. Josh Sweat gets a big play. And then Justin Watson drops the ball on 4th and 25. So the Eagles win the game. As we talked about, the perfect situation for an Eagles fan who wants to say this is the worst 9-1 team in the history of the world. The Eagles are by far the best team in the league, and they should fire the entire coaching staff.
Yeah, Bo, thanks for having me on the show. First time, long time caller here. Eagles are lucky to be 9-1. I mean, the Chiefs basically gave them that game by dropping the ball in the end zone. I mean, I still think there's a lot to be concerned with here. I kind of hate this team, even though they're 9-1 and seem to win every situation they're presented with. So, fire Brian Johnson, leave him in KC. The offensive line stinks. Maybe they should think about moving on from some of these guys, and I'll hang up and listen. Is that about surmise?
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Let's. I mean, there's so much to get.
There's a lot,
from this game.
By the way, a side note we may not get to. Two of the headiest football plays I think I've ever seen.
Oh, if you don't think we're getting to that Jalen Carter play,
right, good.
I mean, I might lead with that.
I think this guy deserves a T-shirt after that play. He's like the Einstein of football.
What a play that was. Last play, or second to last play of the half. 4 seconds left. He tries to dive underneath, nutmeg the center, tries to dive and catch the spike. And even if he didn't catch it, if he had just gotten under the ball, like the end of the half might have run out.
The clock.
Yeah.
What a genius.
Unbelievable play.
Is Jalen Carter like a Mensa member or something?
That's like the kind of thing where, some uncle you grew up with is like, why don't they ever do this? And you're like, why don't they hire George Mirasan to try to block field goals at the end?
I've had that thought.
And, they did it. He almost got it,
like hanging by a thread in the NBA. Put him on the special teams.
Yeah.
But Jalen Carter, that's never even crossed my mind as something that was a possibility. So kudos to Jalen Carter.
Fantastic.
Genius of the week right there.
There's a lot to get to here. I thought that the offense, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 possessions and punted on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. They had a ton of 3 and outs in this game. I believe the most they've had in any game this season. And yet they came through with the big play at the end. But I think the defense deserves the most of the flowers here. They shut out the Chiefs the entire second half. The Chiefs had 6 possessions in the second half. They gained 32 yards and punted. They gained 8 yards and punted. They had the big fumble in the red zone when Bradley Roby, and when you think of primetime games, you think of Bradley Roby.
Oh, absolutely.
And Bradley Roby coming up huge in a big spot, punching that ball loose from Travis Kelce, arguably the biggest play of the game. And then they forced a punt again, and then they forced another punt, and then you had that final possession when they came up big. So all the credit, not all the credit, but all the credit in the world should go to what a defensive performance that was. And there was a lot of mixing and matching personnel. The slot situation was Bradley Roby and also Sidney Brown and also Eli Ricks. We saw a little bit more dime tonight. We saw the corners switching around. They got a little bit of pressure as the game went on. Patrick Mahomes, very difficult to sack, but there were also a lot of drops, and so there's a lot of untangling who deserves credit for what. But the bottom line, they gave up 17 points to Patrick Mahomes. I think they deserve a round of applause or something.
Absolutely. The defense, I think, is why you won it. Jalen Hurts on the field after the game with Lisa Salters was, giving the defense lots of props. If you hold Patrick Mahomes to an undefeated half of football at home off of the bye, I think Sean Desai and that defense deserve, as you said, all the flowers. Again, this Eagles defense seems to come up, and I think you and Zach talked about it either last week or maybe the week prior to the bye, that they always seem to come up with the timely sack with the game on the line, and maybe Sean Desai kind of saves some of those plays for when it matters the most. And again, Josh Sweat with another big play late that essentially iced it. And then the Chiefs player did drop another first down. Not even the touch.
Unbelievable. On 4th and 25.
Yeah, 2 beautiful balls by Patrick Mahomes. We'll get into his crybaby antics in a little bit. But, the reality is, I sound like a loser saying this, but they should have lost that game. Martez Valdez-Scantling,
But then they would have got the ball back with
a minute 42
left,
I think it was.
A field goal to send it to overtime.
You can't say they should have.
Not unreasonable, but
they should have gone down. They did get a little bit lucky here, but the defense was the reason they won.
Yeah, I think.
I still can't
the
believe
Martez Valdez-Scantling thing is this is it's a sliding doors thing. Who knows what
Jalen Reagor in disguise.
I can't get over that drop.
I can't believe he dropped. He cooked Bradley Roby. He had 3 yards of separation on him. Mahomes put the ball on the money. You kind of look. Sometimes to beat Patrick Mahomes, you have to get a little lucky.
Yes. And
the Eagles got they didn't get in the Super Bowl. They got it tonight in Arrowhead Stadium with Andy Reid's impeccable record off the bye at a pretty loud Arrowhead Stadium with, I would imagine, the entire league watching because this was the marquee matchup of the year.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, so we will hear from Zach Berman, who is live on the scene. He's going to tell us all about the mood in the locker room and what he hears from the guys on the scene. Looking forward to that. But before we get to that and before we get to unpacking everything else that happened in this game, let me tell you about a little bit of something called chocolate milk. You a chocolate milk guy? You guys drink chocolate milk with the girls?
I used to crush. We've just recently introduced chocolate milk to Skylar. But when I was a kid, I didn't really like milk, but I would destroy chocolate milk.
Like you made it yourself?
Oh, yeah. Lots of Hershey's.
Beautiful. Well, it's a good Time to tell you then about our sponsor, the Pennsylvania Dairy Farmers and Team Chocolate Milk. Professional and college athletes have known about the power of chocolate milk as a refuel and recovery beverage for a long time. Chocolate milk provides high-quality protein for muscle repair, electrolytes for hydration, and calcium for strong bones. That's why studies consistently show that chocolate milk is an ideal sports recovery beverage. Whether you're recovering after a workout at the gym, a run around Boathouse Row, a bike ride on the Schuylkill Trail like Zach Berman, or like shouting, "Don't drop it," at Marquez Valdez-Scantling as the potential game-winning touchdown is landing into his hands, chocolate milk is an ideal post-workout beverage. Taking care of your body doesn't end when the clock hits 0 on your workout routine. Give your body what it needs to properly recover. What could be better than a scientifically proven recovery beverage made right here in Pennsylvania that also tastes great? Learn more about how chocolate milk can help you refuel and recover after your next workout by visiting teamchocolatemilk.com.
Let me just say this in support of chocolate milk's health benefits. Knock on wood, I've never broken a bone in my body in my life.
Me neither.
And I did a lot of dumb shit, Bo. I definitely should have broke some bones. So chocolate milk, I'm just going to say, no broken bones over here.
We can't say that it didn't have an effect. There's no way to know.
I can't prove that. So just throwing that in there.
I was also I was scrolling Instagram this weekend, and I saw a friend of mine who had a picture of her with her 3 kids at Wheelhouse Cards. They went to the trading day for kids this weekend. Everybody is talking about Wheelhouse Cards. Wheelhouse is our go-to sports card, gift, and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community because love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Shibe Vintage Sports. Looking to grade your sports card collection? Well, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop in to either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY and get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the defense, Jamie. And here's one way I think to look at the drops and give the Eagles a little bit of credit for it. Because, we talked about how...
Are we entering a spin zone, or is this something you firmly believe
I think this is a part of something I believe.
Okay.
Sean Desai is the guy in focus in this game, right? And everybody talks about, we all know, the Chiefs' passing offense funnels through Travis Kelce.
Yes.
Right? He is the guy who makes it happen, and their wide receivers are just not that good.
No,
okay?
They're not.
And so Travis Kelce in this game held to 7 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown, also had a fumble. And you saw a bunch of different guys on him. You saw a lot of double coverage. And so that meant that Patrick Mahomes had to throw it to the slappies on the outside.
Yeah.
And when you have to throw it to Justin Watson and Mecole Hardman and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they're not going to catch every pass, even if Patrick Mahomes is putting it right in their chest, right between the numbers. And so the idea of taking away their far and away best option and making the other guys beat you, it kind of worked out.
Yeah, it did. And that clearly was their strategy, and it worked. Sean Desai, I think, is quietly having a superb season here. That Travis Kelce fumble might have been the story of the game.
Huge play.
Absolutely huge. And I think that was Bradley Roby with the peanut punch there on Travis Kelce. This Sean Desai defense, you heard Troy Aikman say it a couple times tonight, the bend but don't break defense, but they really are, and that's kind of bigger than Sean Desai. I think that's kind of been around the Eagles for a long time, but it was very true tonight because I think I've seen a couple of people in the chat, and I still feel it, like, how the hell did they win that game? And it was because the defense didn't break, especially in the second half. And even late, I just felt like if Patrick Mahomes gets the ball in his hands with a chance to win the game, he's going to win the game.
And he almost did. And
if Valdez-Scantling doesn't suck, he probably does. But luckily for us, the Chiefs did not address wide receiver in a meaningful way this year. So kudos to Sean Desai and the Eagles defense.
And I think the defense, aside from the end, where they really came up big was like the middle of that game, where the offense was just like shutting down and going 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out. The defense kept them in the game and kept getting them the ball back, right? And you will hear the coaches and the players talk about like complementary football, and sometimes that can sort of be a nebulous thing that doesn't really mean anything.
Sure,
but in this game, like they kept them in the game. If the Chiefs had gone down and scored 1 touchdown to make it 24-7, I don't think the Eagles are going to come back in this game, right?
No, I don't think so.
They kept it within reach, and then yes, the Kelsey fumble at 17-14 with the Chiefs having a chance to go in and go up 10 again, just a huge play.
Yeah, that looking back on it, that probably is the game.
2 red zone turnovers.
Yeah.
Of course, we haven't even talked about the Kevin Byard interception in the end zone.
Yeah.
For this offense, for this Eagles team that has continually lost the turnover battle, for them to force 2 red zone turnovers was enormous.
Absolutely huge. And then Byard, I guess his best game as an Eagle or his most impactful because he actually did something. He got a tip of the line on another blitz later in the game. I believe that was a 3rd down 2 or at least a 2nd and longish. So he had a nice game. But yeah, I mean, they finally were able. They did win the turnover battle 2-1.
Yes.
Yeah. So they were finally able to win a turnover battle, and most times you can't overcome losing that deficit, which the Eagles have done this season. This time they actually won it, and they won the game still kind of luckily in a way.
Now the flip side to that is their run defense has been so good.
Teams are only going to throw on them.
Teams are choosing to throw on them, and they were getting leaned on in sort of the beginning and middle portion of this game. Isaiah Pacheco, 19 carries for 89 yards, which I think probably undersells how much their offensive line was dominating the line of scrimmage at portions of this game. And then you also had Mahomes scrambling a good amount of time, 6 carries for 36 yards. But I think it was a little bit concerning how much the Chiefs' offensive line was leaning on them at points in this game. But I also think that was probably okay with Sean Desai. Like, you don't want to be giving up 8 to 10 yards a pop, but you also don't necessarily want to just let Patrick Mahomes sit back there.
Yeah, I agree that Sean Desai was probably okay with Isaiah Pacheco getting his. It was interesting they started the game out like that.
Yeah.
Most teams when they first approach or the first 15 against the Eagles, they're probably going to go through the air more than they went through the ground. But the Chiefs opened it up on the ground a bit there. And it did seem like he was getting whatever he wanted there in the first half. But, this Eagles defense really clamped down. Jalen Carter jumped out a lot to me in the second half. I thought he had a really strong second half. Brandon Graham got away with
a lot of
there.
Weird calls in this game.
A lot of weird calls all over the place.
A lot of ticky-tack stuff, and then also like weirdly adjudicated stuff. Yeah, I thought that
Eli
one
Ricks
probably should have been Eli Ricks shouldn't have been a call.
Shouldn't have been.
The Graham one should have been on Brandon Graham.
Yeah, Brandon Graham got away with one. Fletcher Cox, I thought that was a little ticky-tacky.
I thought it was tough, and I'm not rooting for the Eagles. I'm objective. There is a part of me that's glad the Eagles won this game so that I can actually ask Fletcher about that play.
Yeah.
And he won't get very mad about it. This week. So that's good.
Yeah, it was. Most games when you analyze every play are going to be strange in the NFL. Like there's always going to be some missed calls, always. But it felt like a couple tonight were a little lame. And Patrick Mahomes, can we just talk about him being a crybaby there? Like immediately, he barely touched the ground yet, and he's turning around to the refs like he's, like crying for it. It's like, dude, they're going to call it. You're Patrick Mahomes. Like, you don't need to turn around and cry on top of it. Like, you're going to get every call that is a coin toss.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, just stop.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with.
Yeah, I like Patrick Mahomes, but when he does stuff like that, it's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, you don't also need that.
Yeah, like you're great.
I think that's fair. Let's see. Sack-wise, Hassan Reddick got home on the first drive of the game, and then the Eagles didn't have another sack the rest of the game. Now, the Sweat one we talked about before. Yeah, like I think that intentional grounding should count as a sack, but yeah, the first drive and the last drive.
I think Josh Sweat and guys in his shoes in that type of situation should be able to petition the league for the sack. Because some of these guys have bonuses. Like, that's garbage.
Yeah.
That's a sack.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's a good case to be made that intentional grounding is anti-union by quarterbacks.
Yeah, they should put the rat inflatables out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Arrowhead Stadium should have a bunch of rats.
Solidarity? For your fellow players,
union member. You're taking money out of the Sweat family mouths. Right
what is that about?
Patrick Mahomes hates unions and hates families.
You heard it here, and it's hard to argue with.
How can you prove against that?
Yeah. I think that's ridiculous. I think quarterbacks need to grow up, have some solidarity. Okay, let's turn our attention, I guess, to the offense.
Oh boy,
for a little bit.
The drunk on screen game offense.
Yeah, hold on. Before we talk about the offense, let's throw like 8 wide receiver screens in a row and make sure we get Julio Jones involved, so that his friends at the retirement home can wake up from their naps.
Yeah, I don't think I would have ever had Julio Jones receiving a screen pass on my bingo card.
2 in a row, 2 drives in a row.
What's funny is, like, throughout the year, we've talked about it here like once or twice. Like, hey, I'd like to see a little bit more of the screen game. That's always a fun play when you can get it going. And then they just kept going to it tonight unsuccessfully. Brian Johnson, like, not a great game. There was a couple times, I know you took offense to a tush push situationally.
Well, I think if the Eagles had lost this game,
I think you're right.
I would be thinking more about the final offensive possession than like the defense giving it up at the end.
It seemed like they were okay with trying to run the clock out as opposed to scoring points.
I thought that was really scared coaching.
It was the tush push on 2nd and 1 was a coward's call.
Yeah. There's 4:45 left. They've got 2nd and 1 on the Chiefs 47. They're up 4 points. And you go tush push on 2nd down when you know you can get this on 3rd or 4th. Now, there was a play earlier in the game on 3rd and 2 when you were sort of expecting they would go for the tush push eventually, and they lost yards on that DeAndre Swift handoff. I suppose they wanted to avoid that. But, I mean, throw a pass then. And you could say that you're trying to keep the clock going, but I thought that was an early sign of the way that they were going to coach that. And then you get the penalty on Jordan Mailata, and then you get the rarely seen cowards draw on 2nd down. You don't see a lot of 2nd and 22 cowards draws as Jalen Hurts loses a yard, and then on 3rd down, they just do the little angle route to DeAndre Swift, which looked like it could have picked up some big chunks if Drew Tranquil doesn't make that play. But I thought like the early turtling there at 4 minutes left was what I would have been thinking about after the game if they had lost.
Yeah, I think the only reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and I mean this affectionately, is that Doug is kind of too stupid to be told to stop. Like, he just kept his foot on the pedal at all times. Just go, 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 points, points, points. And when you're playing a Patrick Mahomes, that has to be your mindset.
Yeah.
You can't be okay with running out of clock with 6 minutes left in the game and just thinking you're going to, pick up 4 and 5 yards of play and just chunk your way down the field. You have to be thinking points. That's how you end him, is to put the game out of reach. And I did think that the play calling on that drive was kind of a lost opportunity for the offense. You just kind of set yourself up. And then after the tush push, there was a penalty. And next thing you know, it's 2nd and 12 and then like 3rd and 18 or whatever it was. And it's just like, well, that series is over. It was kind of pretty weak.
And I think that, and we see it in the chat. Like, there's lots of people unhappy with Brian Johnson, the way that he coached this game. I also think it's hard to untangle what's Brian Johnson versus what's Nick Sirianni. Sirianni's putting together the game plan. He's the one telling Brian Johnson how, aggressive to be on those final drives. However, there was a big portion of this game where the Eagles seemed to be getting outcoached on that side of the matchup, where Steve Spagnuolo was dialing up these blitzes that the Eagles did not see coming. They could not contain well. They could not handle. And there were like plays that were just DOA because they didn't have answers. And it's weird when you've got A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, and here comes like a zero blitz with man-to-man on the outside, and you're running a draw or like it's catching you by surprise. Give those guys a chance to win. And A.J. Brown in this game, if I told you the Eagles were going to win this game, go into Kansas City with A.J. Brown having 1 catch on 4 targets, 1 catch for 8 yards.
Yeah.
I guess this is like you give them credit for finding a way to win, but listen, that Chiefs defense is very good. Those guys get paid too and all that, but there were, again, large portions of this game where they looked just like without answers.
And I think a lot of that seemed to be offensive line related, especially going into the half. The offensive line, Chris Jones was just feasting there going into the half. And it seemed like whether it was the miscommunication between AJ and Jalen on that one, where, AJ wanted to go deep and the play call was actually the short post, whether it was Lane Johnson blocking Chris Jones to the outside, thinking it was a screenplay coming, and then the screenplay never really developed. Again, that was Kenny Gainwell on the field. I don't know why we have to force Gainwell on us as much as we do. I think what worked tonight, which they got away from some, DeAndre Swift seemed to be the catalyst for every positive offensive drive they had tonight.
Yes.
And I think they got away from that a little too often. So to think that DeAndre Swift could have been a little bit more used tonight, I'm not one of those, 25 or 30 pound the rock guys, but it did seem like he was kind of the spark behind every effective drive.
This was the most explosive we've seen him have a chance to be in a while. He had 12 carries for 76 yards with a 35-yarder. That was a huge play in this game and sort of unstuck them when they were mired in the muck offensively. Also had 3 catches for 31 yards. I absolutely think that he was a huge factor.
Yeah, he was really effective tonight. And, the DeVonta Smith play down to the 1 was probably the biggest play of the game, I think, yardage-wise. Because DeAndre had, like a 30-yarder. So, yeah,
Swift's
DeVonta
was 35 and DeVonta's was 41.
Yeah, so there's your biggest chunk play of the game. And it was a beautiful ball by Jalen and a great catch by DeVonta. But I guess that's the beauty of AJ and DeVonta as a pair. AJ can be held quiet, and then, DeVonta Smith is really effing good too. So, it was his turn tonight. Congratulations. You hit your DeVonta Smith bet.
I did. Yeah, I got some nice odds on that one. Went and pushed it up to plus 70. Got that. I did not get my James Bradbury over tackles, but that's okay. I went 1 for 2, and one of them paid out more than I get. So
yeah, I think I went 1-1 as well, but you juiced the odds in your favor, so you're the winner of tonight's best bets.
I mean, this one night out of 10 is like
yeah. But I didn't think
you had your Swift over on the rushing.
Swift over hit, Pacheco receiving yards missed.
Got it. Okay.
But Bradbury did not appear to be picked on the night.
No, and he also didn't spend any time on Kelsey, it seemed like, which surprised me.
It seemed like there was a lot of Byard and Ricks and Roby kind of all handling that together. But overall, really good job on Travis Kelce there by the defense.
An important update from the Eagles locker room for you. This is courtesy of Elliott Shore Parks. Jalen Carter on the viral play where he almost intercepted Patrick Mahomes spiking the ball. I saw it on the internet. That's what he says. Says he saw it on YouTube, so he decided to try it in a game.
I mean, he almost pulled it off.
It's fantastic.
If he pulls that off, that's one of the greatest football plays I've ever seen. It never even crossed my mind that was a possibility to try.
It's so good.
Because when you think about it, the offensive linemen they're not really going to block. So if you split the two of them and have long arms, is this going to become a thing now?
Maybe. Then you get the fake spike.
Maybe Jalen Carter's he's an influencer.
He is a trendsetter.
Yeah, an NFL influencer here. He might have just started a whole new trend in this league.
All right. Well, if you want to go to the Eagles' next game, they've got a tough turnaround here. They've got the Buffalo Bills coming to town on Sunday afternoon. If you want to go to that game, well, you don't want to check the prices on Game Time because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Game Time is the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps. This is for Zach. And you're set. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app Create an account and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Might I suggest a new segment for you and Zach to do throughout the week? We're just spitballing here.
Okay,
We're workshopping.
I'm always open to ideas.
Sometimes. Yeah. The Jalen Carter, I saw it on the internet, segment of the week.
Ooh, I like that.
Where you and Zach perhaps discuss maybe your favorite internet happening from the week.
Yeah, I think Zach and I will have different kinds of stories.
That's why that's where I think the beauty of the segment lies.
That. Yeah.
I don't know what Zach does on the internet.
He reads articles.
Is he like what rabbit holes is Zach going down?
Football. Like every article being written about the opposing team.
Yeah.
Every general manager, every coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the Jalen Carter.
His will just be an article recommendation, but that's okay.
What would your rabbit hole be? Is it history? You look like a history guy.
Why? Because I'm white.
You got the sweater on tonight, you know.
I think Zach is more of the professed history guy. It depends. I don't know.
What's your sneaky rabbit hole? 90s dunk contest videos? Like, what are we talking here? Old Wake Forest, like Randolph Childress.
What if sports dynasties? That's my picadillo. Yeah. I also have to tell you guys about the PHLY Black Friday deals that are coming up this week. Fantastic. 25% off. Spend $75 and get a $15 gift card. You got all the choices there. And keep your eyes peeled for some new stuff that could be dropping this week. The PHLY Locker Black Friday coming up this week. We'll hear from Zach in a little bit.
I saw it on the internet.
I saw it on the internet. That's good. You know what else I saw on the internet is I see the chat is going strong right now. There's a guy in the chat, Jay Speakman. Okay,
what do you say,
I see you, Jay. You're always complaining. You're always complaining about the show. And guess what? I'm going to point out your mistake because you're calling Justin Watson a tight end. He's a wide receiver. Okay, my friend.
How could you do that, Jay?
Speak less, Jay.
Yeah, come on, Jay. He's a wide receiver, man. And he's one of theirs that sucks and kind of won the game for the Eagles.
Go to Penn. Yeah. Speaking of Penn football, shout out to Coach Flynn for getting another win at Franklin Field over the weekend. I believe he's 10-0 at Franklin Field in his career. So good job by the Princeton Tigers. Okay.
Franklin Field is extremely cool.
Very cool.
I love walking in that place.
It's no Palestra, but
no, it's not the Palestra.
What'd you think of Jalen Hurts in this game, Jamie? He goes 14 of 22 for 150 yards. He had the interception. I think that we can say the interception was a weird play, right? It looks like that he wants A.J. Brown to come inside. He's throwing the route that he thinks.
Well, I think there was some pressure in his face on that
blitz,
play.
So he's throwing the hot route. A.J. Brown beats the guy off the line, and he wants to just go deep.
Which is understandable because he was going to be wide open deep. If Jalen Hurts has a clean pocket. And this is the other
player that you wanted to talk about because from an awareness standpoint, A.J. Brown almost gets the ball right back.
Yeah, and Jay said, sorry, I'm drunk. Okay. Taken under advisement.
Well, yeah, we'll call it truce.
Yeah. Yes, the heady play by A.J. Brown, if their shins didn't touch, he gets the ball. That's one of the smartest immediate reaction.
It's one of the manliest plays.
So
I'm going to wait until you get up so that I can just steal this from
you. Yeah, he went to touch him and I think realized, no, let me wait for him to get up and I can rip the ball out of his hands because I'm bigger, stronger, and faster than him. Unfortunately, their shins kind of glazed, so he was deemed down by contact. But A.J. Brown and Jalen Carter, honestly, two of the smarter plays I've seen. Now, neither went in the Eagles' favor, but both of their thinking was sound. I thought that was an incredibly heady play by A.J. Brown there to wait, let him get up, and rip the ball back out, essentially turning a turnover into like a 45-yard offensive gain. So, kudos to almost pulling it off. If the shins hadn't glazed there, he would have gotten away with it. And, Mensa members, A.J. Brown and Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Man, those are some heady football plays.
I like that. So back to Hurts, 14 of 22 for 150 and the interception. He also had 12 carries for 29 yards and 2 touchdowns. The question heading into this game was he going to look different physically. There's no doubt that he did.
Yeah.
He didn't, I don't think he was fully like last year's Jalen Hurts, but you could tell the difference, if only in the fact that they were willing to call so many of those quarterback draws, which worked in their favor, especially on the red zone touchdown.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk to Zach about the weather over the course of the game. It was kind of nasty there in the first half. It looked like the second half got better, but it could have been really windy that the broadcast wasn't talking about. And the reason I bring that up is only 22 throws from Jalen Hurts. How often are you going to see that?
So many 3-and-outs.
It's true. And they had a lot of, quarterback draws that seemed to be drawn up. But you're not going to see many games where Jalen Hurts only throws it 22 times. I think he was fine. I can't say he was great. He made a big balls throw with the game on the line to DeVonta there, which you get a ton of credit for. He was good.
Yeah, this did not look like his best game as a passer.
No.
And not from an accuracy standpoint, from was he seeing the whole picture kind of deal. And that was sort of part of the expectation coming in. That's what Spags does so well. But for the Chiefs defense to be able to blitz him as relentlessly as they did and still keep A.J. Brown, under lock and key to 1 catch for 8 yards, that's a great defensive performance. It seemed like Hurts was bailing the pocket a little bit early at times.
Sure.
Maybe that's because he was able to use his legs a little bit more. But all of those complaints factored into things, as you said. He made the big throw to DeVonta Smith with the game on the line.
And DeVonta had 2 nice catches on that drive, and I think Swift
right
had a really nice run. He's lucky because before those 2 DeVonta catches, he missed a wide open DeVonta, where I think Joe Buck or maybe it was Aikman even said, I'm not really sure where Jalen Hurts' eyes were on this one. And then they showed it, and DeVonta was butt naked wide open in the middle of the field, past the last line of defense for the Chiefs there. So he's lucky that, I don't want to say lucky because that discredits what he did, but he was fortunate that they went down and scored there, because I think if the Eagles punted, a lot of people would have been saying, how the hell did you miss DeVonta Smith on that play? So fortunate for the Eagles, they were able to overcome a pretty big mistake, but for the most part, he protected the ball pretty well. That 1 interception, I can't kill him on that.
I don't kill him for it either.
That's just kind of a quarterback trying to make a play with pressure in his face. And so overall, I think a really nice job to go into Arrowhead and win with the Chiefs coming off the bye, Andy Reid's record off of the bye, all that stuff against them in a foul weather type of game. I'm not going to go tell everybody he's the greatest quarterback since sliced bread, but, I think he's probably the MVP favorite still of the NFL. And I think everybody would agree hasn't played his best football yet.
I think he's been playing pretty good.
He's had. I don't think he's put together 4 quarters of.
I think what he hasn't put together is the legs and the arm.
Yeah,
in the same game,
sure.
Right? It seems like it's sort of been one or the other.
I think we just all expect more to still come, which speaks to his greatness.
He's maybe the MVP of the league.
I think he is.
Yeah.
So he's kind of raised the bar on himself.
100%.
So what we saw last year was wow, this guy's so much better than I thought he ever could be. And now it's that's the bar he has to get over. And he's at the MVP level of the league after 10 weeks. And you still think, and it's a credit to him. I'm not trying, there's better football yet still to come.
You're right. And
which is incredible.
Just scrolling through Twitter here quickly, it seems like Sirianni says the play to DeVonta Smith, the deep throw, was a check from Jalen Hurts at the line. So you talk about the legs, you talk about the arm, you talk about the reading things and the play calling, as Zach likes to term it, the triple threat that he has. So he gets credit for that as well.
Yeah, that was a huge, most important throw of the game, and he put it right on the money and almost was a touchdown there. So it's if I pull up DraftKings, which I'll do here in a second, I would imagine. And we can also play the guessing game for the Bills line. But I would imagine Jalen Hurts is, I think him, Mahomes were kind of tied last week for the MVP. I would imagine now Hurts is the leading person to take home the award, which is pretty wild. Because the hardest thing, Bo, and I'm assuming you'll agree here, is what makes the greatest is consistency. So Hurts was so good last year. Part of me thought, all right, it's natural to have a regression this year. And while he might be statistically, because he just met his interception total of last year. The fact that he's in the MVP discussion again after 10 weeks is consistency. And like that to me is the best thing about this year, is that even if he's not playing his best, he's still one of the best.
Well, yeah, and like I am not a quarterback wins guy. It's a little bit reductive, but he's like 23-2 over his last.
It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah, it really is.
There is something to that, and there are other advanced stats that would tell you that he's having an even better season than he did last year as a passer. If you take away like the interceptions, you can't just take away the turnovers, but there's a case to be made that as a passer, he's been even more efficient than last year because he's hitting more explosives than he did a year ago.
Jeez, it's a credit to him. It's unbelievable. So yes, I just pulled it up. Jalen Hurts plus 250 to be your NFL MVP winner after 10 weeks. Lamar Jackson in second at plus 330. Patrick Mahomes also at plus 330. So those three were more or less tied this past week leading up to the game. So the odds makers are giving Jalen Hurts a lot of credit for going into Arrowhead after the bye and getting a win, as he is now your NFL favorite to take home the MVP.
And what is the line, the early line for next week home against Buffalo? Looks to me like...
let me guess first before I look.
Okay.
4:30 game. The Bills have been struggling.
This is as of before the game tonight. So
I'm going to say Eagles are -5.
3.5.
Okay. My gut said 4.5, and I upped it a little bit. 3.5. Unsurprising.
Before the win tonight. But I don't know. I feel like there's like this continued undervaluing of the Eagles nationally, even though this is a very Philly thing. Like, you know, you don't talk smack about us. We talk smack about us, right? Like,
yeah.
The second you say something that I would have said anyway, you can go to hell.
Yeah. And I do think, you know, Josh Allen's a little bit on fraud watch.
Yeah, no doubt.
Guy is a turnover machine. So, you know, look, the Eagles are navigating this really tough stretch of the season pretty damn well. And, you know, I know the Niners are still out there. I don't think the Bills are what people once thought they were. So, you know, this number one seed, home field trajectory.
I'm thinking of this as the Ryan Bates game, but that could, I might be the only one who's thinking of it that way.
I'm pretty sure that's safe to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the Eagles will make Eli Harold the like special captain for this game.
I got to say,
just for my sake.
Yeah. Gut. I love the Eagles -3.5 against the Bills.
See, now when I changed this morning and when I thought I think the Eagles are going to win this game, my counterbalance that was I think they're going to win this game and then have the letdown.
Ooh, so you think now next week turns into the letdown?
But that's just the contrarian in me. I can't really. But you know, I think the most impressive thing that anybody did tonight was you and I picking the Eagles to win as objective people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I felt dirty doing it, but I did feel all week that they were going to go in there and get it done. Just felt like the Chiefs, it had been too one-sided. You know, it did feel like the Eagles were due, and I do that in quotations if you're listening on podcast.
Yes. Zach Berman from PHLY tweets that heading into the locker room, Sirianni was talking some smack to a reporter who picked the Eagles to lose.
Did he name that reporter?
No, but we'll have to ask him about it.
Okay.
But what's your feeling on like the general Sirianni vibe?
Cockiness?
Yeah.
If I was a fan of any one of the 29 other teams, I would absolutely loathe him. But he's my coach, so I love it. I mean, the culture with this team is great. You know, you're down there in the locker room, you see it firsthand, and Zach does too. You know, I think they have something special going on. From an outsider looking in, it does seem like their culture is part of their secret sauce. And I think you have to give him credit for that.
He should get so much credit for that. There's like this team, this roster is loaded with talent, right?
Sure.
And so like in that Chiefs game, the Chiefs have like 3 of the best players on the field. Maybe a little bit more than that. Like their defense is very good, but like 22-22, the Eagles have a better roster, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so the longer the game goes on, maybe the longer that plays out, they are extremely talented, and they may have the most talented team in the league. But there's also it's very difficult to balance all of everybody's expectations, keeping everybody happy in service of the same goal. And I think that they sort of take on it's like a two-pronged thing where I think it's Sirianni, but it's also Hurts, and I think they take on both of those guys' personalities. And to some degree, they sort of let Sirianni be the cocky guy on the field. But you saw the Hassan Reddick, going back and forth with Travis Kelce during this game. BG is a classic shit talker.
He's
Fletch
good
was
at
doing it
too.
as well. But I think that the culture that he has built, while he might overstate it himself, I feel like it doesn't get enough credit because it is not a measurable thing.
Sure. Yeah. It's one of those things you can't really quantify. But yeah, I mean, the fact that their record is what it is now, last year, I mean, the fact that this guy keeps getting overlooked constantly for Coach of the Year award is pretty amazing. And it might be because of what you just said, that the roster is so loaded, he almost gets discredited for the job he's been doing. And I think right now to be 9-1 with two new coordinators, Brian Johnson and Sean Desai, I think this man is absolutely in the conversation for Coach of the Year again.
And Zach has made this point too. There is the league-wide fetishization of coaches who are play callers, right? Then it's something that you can sort of point to.
Because Sean McVay could memorize a play from 6 years ago in an exact down and distance.
And he can name the other team's starting left guard.
Yeah,
right?
Wow.
Whereas a guy who is just sort of the coach doesn't necessarily get as much attention. I think that's part of it.
I think
it's also because this is sort of viewed as a Howie Roseman creation, not a Nick Sirianni-led thing. But, yeah, I mean...
When have dream teams ever failed, right?
They have lost...
That doesn't happen.
2 games over the past 2 years when they've had Jalen Hurts start.
I mean, what else does this guy have to do to, I don't know if he actually... I don't know how to perceive this. Does he actually not get the credit on the national level? Because we're insulated here in our Philadelphia bubble.
I think he doesn't, yeah.
But it feels like he doesn't. I watch a lot of NFL Network. We have 4 TVs here, so I'm the TV guy of the office. I'm the one that always comes on and fires up the TVs. So I put on Get Up, I put on First Take, I put on Pat McAfee, I put on everything that's on TV. And you should be too at the PHLY Sports YouTube podcast center on YouTube.
Look at this. Look at what Fletcher Cox is wearing.
Is he wearing the shirt?
Fletcher Cox, if you can, I don't know, I guess we can zoom, but Fletcher Cox is wearing his PHLY shirt in the locker room.
Love it, Fletcher. Thank you, teammate. We got a super chat. Papa Hogue. Can you scroll back up to that?
Super chats are fun. Oh, there we go.
Super chat.
Papa Hogue.
Support PHLY
There
super chats. Are fun. Hit the like button for free. Diehards are the best. Thank you, Papa Hogue, for showing the people. I agree with him. You should super chat it up. And awesome to see Fletcher wearing the shirt in the postgame. But yeah, Nick Sirianni, it feels like, doesn't get the proper respect of a guy that has put a product on the field for the last 2 years that is absolutely dominating.
I think that's absolutely right.
Brian Daboll might get fired this year, and he won Coach of the Year over him.
Yeah.
And he did a nice job last year. I'm not going to deny that. But Nick Sirianni, define it however you want. He's one of the best coaches in the league. It's him, Andy Reid, maybe Harbaugh. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is overrated in my opinion.
We can have that conversation.
To the fetishization. Yes. Beautiful play design. But oh my God, you would act
how about having a bit of a macro sense, Kyle, and not just getting all of your best players injured all the time?
That's a fair point, and I think Nick Sirianni and the training camp and how he's handled people, they've been healthy during his tenure for the most part. All those things are part of coaching, and that gets kind of skipped out on. Hopefully now people will wake up and maybe realize that Nick Sirianni deserves to be in the Coach of the Year conversation 2 years in a row now. And honestly, 3 years in a row. Because the first year there was no expectations.
Yeah, it's funny. He got more Coach of the Year support
when they were 7-9.
Yeah, his first year
because the expectation was
into the playoffs.
They were going to win 3 or 4 games, and he came in and almost made them a 500 ball club, or helped make them a 500 ball club. And now they've lost 2 games in 2 years when Jalen Hurts quarterbacks the team. It's pretty incredible.
It is pretty incredible. And you know what else is pretty incredible? FOCO. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It has the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY for 10% off.
I just saw a funny comment from somebody. I lost it there because you guys are blazing in here. Make sure you're hitting that like button. It said Kyle Shanahan cares more about the health of his workers than an 18th century coal baron.
Cares less, yeah.
Or less, excuse me. Yes, yeah. Less.
I think that's about right. I've also seen people talking about, does the Super Chat get them access to videos of Zach changing in the back of his car?
Ooh.
I think Zach will initially say no, but I feel like
we can talk into it. Yeah,
we might be able to move the needle on that. Offensively, just on some of the advanced numbers by EPA per drive, this was their third worst game of the season behind the Patriots and the loss to the Jets. By success rate, it was their second worst game of the season.
Felt like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they had a ton of 3-and-outs in this game.
Excuse me, 9-8. Yeah, Nick Sirianni, not 7.
Yeah, it was ugly. And then on EPA per drop back, it was their third worst game of the season as well. So, not great. Is he here? We got him. All right. Well, the flu game man himself, you're a jabroni, went to the locker room, got to see Fletcher Cox wearing a PHLY shirt. Zach Berman, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to come on the show, hustled up here. But there's a lot for me to discuss from the locker room.
Well, tell us your initial thoughts. What's the top of the mind for you?
So, all right. So here you go. So I'll start with this. While I'm waiting outside, I'm going to set the scene for you. We're waiting outside, and Nick Sirianni's coming in. And excuse me, similar to how Brandon Graham used to be with Derek Gunn, Nick Sirianni saw someone who predicted that the Chiefs would win and that the Chiefs had the advantage at quarterback and at head coach. And Sirianni was pretty outspoken about not liking that prediction and not liking that rating system.
Spill the beans, Zach.
You can tell us who. This is a thing he did in front of reporters.
It was Elliott Shore Parks. Now, I should say it was playful. It was playful. But it was fun color. And then in the locker room, the same thing was happening as well. So this is a team that, even though they wouldn't kind of say it when they were asked, excuse me, it certainly feels like they felt they were underappreciated.
Well, it's the same thing he said about that Dolphins game, right? He will take any chance he can get to make them feel like they are being disrespected. And in this game, we talked about it over the course of the week, Zach. As much as they said, like, this is the next game, Sirianni, of all people, is not wired that way. He is absolutely looking at this as a chance to make a statement.
You're absolutely right. And this very much was a statement game, and the way the Eagles were speaking were in those like big picture terms, right? Of they showed resiliency tonight. They showed character. They showed the identity of the team, things like that. You don't talk that way after, just like a ho-hum win in October against, the Giants or the Commanders, let's say.
Wow. You of all people taking a shot at the Giants, how far they have fallen.
Well, they haven't played the Giants yet. That's why I amended that comment. So we don't know what's going to happen in those Giants games. I'm nothing if not factual. So then a few that's the manner in which they were speaking, and they really did view this as a statement win, even if they didn't say it. I think going into Kansas City against the defending champs, a team that beat them, and not to play their best game, by the way, they had a few really lucky breaks. I mean, I'm pointing right now, and I have this direction right. This isn't like we're in the studio. I have this direction right where Marquise Valdes-Scantling dropped that pass, right? I mean, Andy Reid punted the ball in the fourth quarter. I don't know why. That shifted the game. But Jalen Hurts said, when plays need to be made, they made him. DeVonta Smith had that catch, right? And Nick Sirianni said Jalen Hurts was winning with his mind tonight, and that was that was a big message here. Was like the resilience and the character the team showed in this win.
Yeah, Zach, I was going to ask you, like, is the vibe in that locker room that they can just win any game at any given time? And I say that because of this stat I just saw from Jeff Kerr of CBS. Jalen Hurts has won 7 straight games when trailing by 10-plus points. It's the most by any quarterback in the NFL since the stat was first tracked in 1991. No other quarterback has won more than 4 straight. Does Jalen Hurts just give that entire locker room a belief that they're going to win every single game no matter what? This is unprecedented.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts believes that, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts has like that confidence in himself that that's what matters most. It's not what he makes everyone else think. He holds the ball on every play. The fact that he believes that, the fact that he operates that way, is the most important part. But yeah, certainly there's belief from this team. But I got to tell you, in just asking around in the locker room, they felt the story of the game was more the way the defense played in the second half, more so than this great offensive performance. It was the defense in the second half that kept coming up more than anything.
Well, let's talk about the defense then, Zach, because there are some people who have said it's impossible to stop Patrick Mahomes. Sit back and take it. Even on the biggest stage in the Super Bowl, let them score. There's nothing you can do. Tonight, the defense shut out Patrick Mahomes in the second half. I believe 6 possessions that they had. What did you make of, like, what was so impressive about the defensive performance? Obviously, the Chiefs had a lot of drops in this game, but what impressed you so much having been there, and what impressed the guys in the locker room?
Yeah. So when I asked about it in the locker room, you kept hearing them say, like, they went back to the basics. They kept it simple. It seems to be whenever the teams make adjustments, that's what they say, right? Like they never make things more complicated.
Right.
But clearly there was more to it. One thing Brandon Graham said was, they had some changes against the run that were really helpful there. Then the pass rush was getting home. That was critical too there. The Josh Sweat play there, forcing the intentional grounding, that was huge. But overall, it was the adjustments they made against the running game, and then in coverage. I know you can't coach turnovers, but in speaking to Fletcher Cox after the game, he pointed to those turnovers. And by the way, when you look at where those turnovers were, both of them in the red zone, one in the end zone, one in the red zone, that changes things considerably.
Well, just to sort of fact check that it's accurate, Isaiah Pacheco 12 carries for 66 yards in the first half, 7 carries for 23 yards in the second half. So
that is accurate.
That did play out.
Okay. All right, good. So they weren't lying to me. That's always good to know.
So, Zach, did anything come up in the locker room around you that you heard about Jalen Carter perhaps pulling and attempting an unprecedented, unheard of, I've never seen it before type of move where he tried to intercept the spiked ball by Patrick Mahomes? Was he asked about that? How did that go in the locker room? Because I got to tell you, that was almost one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen.
Yeah, so I wasn't in on Jalen Carter when he was speaking, and so I'm sure that came up, and I'll find out what he said. But that I did not specifically hear. I was trying to get a sampling of different positions. So at that point, I had already spoken to Graham and Cox, and I was trying to get Darius Slay and DeVonta Smith, some of Sirianni, some of Jalen Hurts, so I could come up here with a representative sampling. But I did not get Jalen Carter. I'll find out afterwards, and we'll talk about it on tomorrow's show.
Shout out to Greg MC for the super chat there. Said a great win, and hard to believe that 14-3 is maybe not so unlikely anymore. Zach, you talked about like how impressive this win is, and I think from a results standpoint, this is the best win of regular season win of the Sirianni era, going into Kansas City, beating a team that beat you in the Super Bowl, knowing all of the Andy Reid post-bye backstory and stuff like that. It wasn't the prettiest game, but do you think it's going to be hard for the Eagles to play the "we're disrespected" card now?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. So two things there. First of all, I don't think this was the most impressive win of the Sirianni era. I understand the context, but I didn't think they played particularly well, right? I thought the way they played against Miami was much more impressive than tonight. But certainly certainly going into Kansas City and coming out with this game. But if you just look at the stat sheet, Kansas City outplayed them in almost every facet of the game. But Kansas City turned the ball over twice. I can't keep repeating enough that ridiculous punt that Andy Reid had. And then Marcus Valdes-Scantling dropped a touchdown there. I think the Eagles were fortunate to escape with a win, but I asked DeVonta Smith that. And he said, it doesn't matter how you win, right? All that matters is that you win. And that was
that punt, by the way,
sentiment from Jalen Hurts too.
That punt, by the way, 4th and 4 on the Eagles' 39-yard line with 9 minutes left. And that was when they were up 17-14. So it preceded immediately the possession in which the Eagles took the lead. I mean, we've all seen Andy Reid punt in that situation before.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, I think that
Sirianni had a punt from a similar distance in this game. They were in their own territory, but still.
But to answer the question that you asked, they can't play the underappreciated, disrespected card. I mean, they're the best team in the NFL. They just beat the Super Bowl champs.
Watch them; they will.
They know what is being said about them. I mean, this is a team that is not they are now. Some of the guys don't. Darius Slay has no idea. I asked him if he felt disrespected, and he was like, "What?" And he was like, "I've been disrespected my whole life." And I pointed out what Nick was saying and what Brandon Graham was saying. He's like, "That's them." But yeah, I mean, this is a team that deserves their flowers when you're 9-1. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be better this week. I promise you.
You're really going through it. It seems
a lot of people in the chat are saying you're a dog, so
they want to know how you're feeling.
I think this is good for your Q rating.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, my wife watched the pregame show. She's not up right now, but she was watching the pregame show. She thought you guys did a great job, but she was concerned about me, and she's like, you really need to rest tomorrow. And I said, well, I'm going to sleep 2 hours tonight because I have a 6 a.m. flight, and then there's a show tomorrow. But then I'll sleep tomorrow night. But then Wednesday we're back at the facility, back at it. So Saturday is when I'll try to catch up on some stuff. Hopefully, I'm not coughing tomorrow afternoon. But I will do my best here. Anyways.
What did she think of the wet balls discourse?
That did not come up. She was more concerned about my well-being than anything else.
And how was the anthem?
Well, I stood at attention with, like I always do, right? This was the first time, like I said, that I did the show from the seat that I sit at. If I was continuing with the show when the anthem was going on, my goodness, I'd be banished from the stadium. I would lose my credential, So yeah, I had to operate swiftly and intelligently in that situation.
So Zach, I'm curious your view and perspective up in the box. It felt to me like DeAndre Swift was kind of the catalyst for every effective offensive possession they had tonight. Was that something, obviously way too much in the screen game tonight? Did you feel as though it was one of those games where they maybe should have gone to Swift a little bit more?
Yeah, I think going into the game, we certainly noticed that they were more vulnerable against the run than the pass. And it paired itself out. I thought Swift played really well. And so they could have gone to Swift more. The reality is they really didn't have extended possessions for much of the game. I mean, in the first half, they did not convert a single third down, right? And then they couldn't really get momentum going early in the third quarter either. So, Yeah, perhaps, but like whenever you talk about should they do X, should they do Y, you need to sustain drives, and going 0 for 3 on third down, that's like unacceptable.
Yeah, and it's to the point that you said earlier. A lot of the stats in this game would paint a picture that the Eagles were outplayed. They were 3 of 11 on third down, whereas Kansas City was 8 of 17. They only gained 238 yards, while Kansas City gained 336, almost 100 yards more. You go on and on down the list. Obviously, the turnovers come up big. Did you feel like you needed to take a whiff, Zach, when on the biggest stage of the season in prime time, Bradley Roby makes a big play?
No, act like you've been there before, right? It's not the first time I predicted. It's not the first time I forecasted something correctly, and it won't be the last time, right?
He was going to get completely dusted by Marquez Valdez-Scantling with the game on the line.
Who did he catch it? All I needed to see from Bradley Roby there, and I'm repeating this line. I said this to Dave Zangaro next to me in the press box, was the Jalen Mills finger wag, right? When Valdez-Scantling dropped it. If Roby pulled out the finger wag, I would tip my cap, right?
Yes.
Bradley Roby, big game Bradley, right? Julio, yeah.
I was going to give you. I think you should puff your chest out a little bit here. You have been telling us Julio's coming, and it proved true tonight. 2 catches for 5 yards. Woo! Bringing back the memories of vintage Julio Jones.
Just wait until you watch the All-22 and you see the way that defense respected him, right? I mean, Steve Spagnuolo must have thought that 2007 and 16 Julio Jones was on the field with the respect that they gave Julio Jones. I think, in there, because the opposing teams always read and listen to like the press clippings from the other team to try to get some intel. I frankly think they were tuning into PHLY, and they responded to Julio Jones accordingly.
Yes.
But look at this, like Swift, Josh Sweat, Bradley Roby. I mean, all these guys who Kevin Byard, all these guys who made plays tonight are players that I've touted. So,
Zach, you've touted every single player on the roster, except for Derek Barnett.
That's not true. That's not true. There's some players I was slow on. There's some players I was wrong on, and I can't really claim Byard because I was like, yeah, that trade makes sense. No, but I told you were saying Bradley Roby's not a big game guy, and I said this is what he told me he did against Tom Brady. When I'm in that locker room, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get these nuggets that I can share for the audience. Like Cam Jurgens from Beatrice, Nebraska. There is not another pregame show. And I know there's some hardworking shows elsewhere. That I can tell you there's not another pregame show that said that Cam Jurgens had family here from Beatrice, Nebraska. So that's why people tune into PHLY. And that's why Fletcher Cox was wearing that PHLY Eagles shirt after the game.
Yeah, that's very cool. We tweeted it out from our PHLY Eagles Twitter account if you want to check it out. I wonder if the Jurgens family came in with some of his jerky for him to re-up his supply. Zach, I wanted to ask you, it seemed like the Eagles' defensive strategy was try to take Kelce away from the game plan and let the wide receivers beat you. On the opposite of that, did it seem to you like Steve Spagnuolo's philosophy was take away A.J. Brown and let everybody else beat you? Or is that just kind of the way it went tonight?
No, I think that's the way it went. I think Brown saw more, saw more Snead than he saw last season. I think last season he saw McDuffie a bit more. I mean, I'll have to look at that at the numbers. This was just me kind of watching with my naked eye. But honestly, they couldn't get much going in the passing game as it was. But no, I think that Kansas City secondary has played well consistently, and Jalen was under duress for most of the first half, right? The Eagles really didn't kind of have their protection locked down, but once they kind of settled in, then I think they went to DeVonta when they needed to, they went to AJ when they needed to, and that's it, in money situations, DeVonta Smith made a money play. I'm looking at the stat sheet here, yeah. I mean, AJ only had one catch for 8 yards. I see what you mean. But DeVonta, this is DeVonta, I think his his second game with 99 yards, right?
Yeah.
Man, he's can't just get him that one more yard. It's 6 for 99 for DeVonta. Yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly good game from Jalen Hurts here, right? 14 for 22,
Only
150
22
yards.
passes, yeah.
Yeah. But the Eagles didn't have a lot of plays. That's why, like, this was an impressive win in that they went into Kansas City and escaped with a win. And you talk about resilience, you talk about character, and that's appropriate to talk about. But they didn't play especially well. And certainly Kansas City had something to do with it. But I don't look at this like, man, they were ready. They had this great game plan. They were playing their A game. And, like in the Super, I frankly think, and again, this is a half-baked take where, I'm on all types of like cold medicine here. Just trying to keep my job, right? I don't want to say anything but I would go as far as to say they played better in the Super Bowl last year when they lost than they did tonight, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
yes.
defensively,
Both
no.
sides matter.
Yeah, defensively, no. Offensively,
They
yes.
completely no-showed on one side of the ball in the Super Bowl.
They did. Jonathan Gannon's a war.
I mean, we don't need to relitigate.
I mean, their second half performance, these they could not be different. In the second half of the Super Bowl, they literally could have not been on the field, and the Chiefs would have done the exact same thing when they had the ball. In this game, they shut them out in the second half on defense. That matters. I can't believe you, of all people, are giving like a losing matters more than winning take.
No, I'm not giving. I'm saying the way they played. Like I think that they were. I thought they played a really like sound game last year, and I thought
they played a great game on offense.
True.
They got completely pantsed on defense in the Super Bowl.
In the second half, yes. In the second half, that's correct. But again, I'm sorry, we don't need to relitigate Jonathan Gannon era. I think we've done that enough, you and I.
So are you saying, Zach, that Sean Desai automatically better than Jonathan Gannon because of tonight?
Well, he certainly coached a better game against Patrick Mahomes. And Sean Desai deserved a lot of credit because Patrick Mahomes doesn't go 24 for 33 for 177 against a lot of teams. And Sean Desai put a great plan together. He made adjustments, and his team responded. I give Desai a lot of credit, and I've said it before. Desai is going to be a bona fide head coaching candidate because I think he's got a lot to offer.
Anything from the offense, Zach, in the locker room in terms of what they did to sort of shore things up? You talked about how bad the protection issues were in the first half. Did they talk about anything like that?
Nothing particular that that jumps to mind at the moment. Again, I'll have more on tomorrow's show as I sort through everything. But I mean, most of the conversation was kind of this big picture, like, we were a resilient team. We showed that tonight. And then I thought the excuse me, I'm sorry. I thought the color was seeing Nick Sirianni and seeing Brandon Graham, like saying, I'm basically you doubted us, you picked against us. Yeah, what do you think now? And it was playful banter, but it was quite spirited. Like there were some words in there that I wouldn't say on air. So it was quite spirited.
Well, text them to me. I'll gladly say them. Zach, please pound some liquids tonight. Get some rest. Try and get a little sleep on the flight if you can. And people in the chat are saying, feel better, buddy.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the coughing. I want to be better for you guys. I'll be better tomorrow, hopefully. I can't promise that.
What can we look forward to reading tonight on allphly.com?
Good questions. I'll get into that scene that I discussed, and kind of the like why this team said they won, and the resiliency of the team, and then the fact that they might see these guys again, right? So even though this was a chance to avenge the Super Bowl, the Chiefs might have a chance to avenge this game. And so the Eagles can't act like they got rings tonight because they won this. So that was their talking point before the game. Beating the Chiefs won't give them a ring from last year. Beating the Chiefs won't give them a ring this year either. And I think that's important to understand.
Zach, thank you for the insight. We love you. Get some sleep, feel better, and hopefully next time, instead of, just going after the good people of Beatrice, Nebraska, which is a population of 12,000, maybe give us some insight on Philadelphia, which has a $1.6 million people population. We'll take those numbers instead.
Oh, I'm happy. I'll talk about Philly anytime. I mean, there's nothing I love more than, well, besides my wife and kids, than Philadelphia. So yeah, I'm the one talking about Rashid Rice.
I'm going to get into this. We're going to get into
Isaiah
this week.
Pacheco.
Philadelphia versus like the profession of journalism, which you care about more.
Oh, I mean, that's like making me choose between Reed and Sloan, right?
No, except those are your actual children.
Yeah.
You can think it over. You don't have to answer it right now.
The good thing, and this is like a political answer, but for the past 15 years, or for the past 12 years rather, I've been able to do journalism in Philadelphia. So I've been able to combine the two. And I'm not looking to leave anytime soon.
Good spin zone right there. Almost named my own daughter Sloan. So beautiful name.
There you go.
I like that.
Nicely done, Zach. Thank you so much. Good luck. Get some sleep. Not anytime soon, is I believe what he was trying to say. Zach and I will be back tomorrow at 4:00.
Good.
Here,
Hopefully you can get a little sleep on the plane.
PHLY.
Can you sleep on a plane?
I can, yes. Can you?
Yeah, for the most part I can. Because, I was doing a lot of those early red-eye flights back or first flight out. So you kind of have to train yourself to do it back in the day. So I got pretty decent at it. Yeah. Here's a stat I just saw for you as, we're winding down that, again, the one I read to Zach earlier about trailing 10 points in a row. John Clark put this one out. Jalen Hurts has now won 13 straight games against teams with winning records. That is the longest streak by a quarterback ever over the last 73 years in the NFL.
Wow. I mean, there are so many, like when you go 25-2, there are so many little things you can pick out.
I mean, you figure half of those teams are going to be above 500 teams.
And that's why,
that's just unbelievable.
We can say that this was not like a complete performance, right?
But I'm starting to believe Jalen Hurts. I don't give a shit anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the W.
But
that's all that matters.
Especially at this point of the season, right? Like,
sure,
a win in Kansas City means that you're now 9-1, right?
And it also means
you're closer to getting the 1 seed, which means you're closer to getting a bye, which means you're closer to getting back to the Super Bowl, right? All of those things matter so much, and to do it like at this degree of difficulty, the most difficult game on their schedule was going to Kansas City on Monday night with the Chiefs coming off a bye. And they went out and they didn't play great, but they won the game. And sometimes it is that simple.
And people in the comment section, yes, they lost the Super Bowl. I'm assuming John Clark, although it doesn't say it, means regular season games, not obviously Super Bowl, because everybody in the playoffs would be disqualified because everybody in the playoffs is good. It truly is unbelievable what this team has been able to accomplish these last 2 years. And I mock keep the main thing, and I mock the cliches, and I do that all the time because it doesn't matter if he believes it and the rest of the guys believe it. And they find a way. They're battle tested. They're proven. And they seem to pull out wins when you don't think they should on a night like tonight. And they seem to just get it done week in and week out. And it's really, really impressive at this point.
It really is. And we will talk about it all week here on PHLY. We're going to hear from Brian Baldinger tomorrow to talk about some of the...
he's going to be hyped.
He's going to be hyped.
I thought... Can you ask him about Jalen Carter in the second half? Because my dumb, naked... lay person. I thought he was spectacular in the second half. He seemed to be really kind of disrupting that Chiefs offensive line when all game nobody really seemed to be able to get to him. I think this kid's going to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think there's a really good shot that Jalen Hurts is your league MVP if this keeps up. And, Nick Sirianni might feel as though he's disrespected. If this man isn't in the Coach of the Year conversation again, I don't know what he has to do.
I'm still focused on. I hope Jalen Carter gets so good that that he can abolish self-checkout. But that's my own personal.
I mean, are you getting in the way of Jalen Carter at self-checkout?
Nobody. Stop doing self checkout.
It's just a way for companies to cut employees.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
all it is.
Yeah.
So
it's like quarterbacks throwing the ball away. It's anti-labor. All right,
I'm with you.
Baldy with us tomorrow. We'll talk about some of the maybe the scheme stuff we saw in this game. You know, we did see like DeVonta Smith in the backfield a couple times. Saw that wrinkle. Saw some 21 personnel. We'll talk about that. Zach and I with you at 4:00 tomorrow. So look forward to that. We've got a week of shows off on Thanksgiving, as we hope everybody else is. But back Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then obviously on Sunday for the Bills game. Pre and post game.
Yes,
back with Jamie.
Can I give a quick thankful to everybody in the chat here? As we're kind of pulling our bootstraps up here at PHLY and getting this thing off the ground. I'm really thankful for everybody here in the chat that hangs out with us. You and Zach call them sickos.
Yes.
I'm ingratiating myself to the sickos and everybody else that's joined us throughout the year for these pre and post games. They're a lot of fun. So I'm thankful for each and every one of you in this chat tonight. So please like, subscribe, follow along, interact. If you want to be a diehard, become it. You can hop in the Discord channel with all of us. But truly, truly thankful for everybody that hangs out with us. And, time is a hard thing to give up, and people choose to spend it with us, and we're very thankful for that.
Can't top that.
Yeah.
What a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody.
Well
I love you.
From Jamie and anybody who's in the chat, after midnight is a sicko as far as I'm concerned. So to all the sickos and to all of you listening later, we thank you for listening. Congratulations on the win. The Eagles are 9-1. They had this crazy gauntlet in the schedule, and they are 2-0 so far on that stretch, with the Buffalo Bills coming to town next week. And so for
Fraud Watch,
Andrew and Jamie and Zach and the good people of Beatrice, Nebraska, we thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.